Welcome to Trading Lounge and the US indices for the 12th of January, and we'll start with the NASDAQ and then we'll move to the S&P. This is the NASDAQ on the weekly chart here. Just have a look at the bigger picture, and as I mentioned yesterday, while we're at the 13,000 here, there's a couple of possible counts, and let's just go back over those. So wave 3 here with an A and a B and a C wave here for wave 4. The SP 500 made a low for this one here, made a low below this one here. So this is more like a running flat correction rather than an expanded flat correction. There's in the flat family of corrections, there's 3: the regular flat, the expanded flat, and the running flat. So when we look at wave 3 here and wave 4 over here, there's really nice length in this here, isn't there, for like to call this a wave 5 top in here. So we just always need to be mindful of that. At the same time, if we think that the world's going to continue, then we'll need to look at this as wave 1 and pulling back for wave 2. Now the other point is, do we actually have a top in play here? That's the other thing that we need to look at, and we need to be open-minded. And as I mentioned, we're not going to miss much because we'll be working on an intraday basis. As you know, I've been counting this as 5 waves up through here. There are other ways to count this as well, unfortunately. So in a nutshell, what we can look at is that in due course, the 13,000 here being the closest largest number, if that becomes the support, then we'll just be continuing to trade long at that point. But if we get short trade setups, then we'll also be looking on the short side as well. So let's dive in and keep an open mind and try to just, what we're trying to do is really just gather evidence along the way for things. So from this wave 4 here, looking at 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 over here, and then looking for wave 4 here, and then looking at this structure moving up through here. In the first instance, we have wave 1, not a problem. Wave 2, wave 3 is moving along quite nicely. I've got this little high here pegged as blue wave 3 here, and then blue wave 4 here. I am sort of scratching my head about this. It is rather small here. But in a way, it doesn't really overlap the top of wave 1, so that's one positive thing. So it's possible, like that, I've got this blue wave 3 wrong here, and we're still looking for like the first high above the level here will be the wave 3 here, and then we'll need to go into wave 4 over here. So what we will be doing here is really looking at the 13,000 level there and looking for support or resistance there. So if this is the 13,000 across here, we've had our arrival, we've had our reaction, and we're in our first high above the level, and then we're basically moving back down below the level now for this. So if we get support over here at some point, well, then we'll just be looking at these highs here and looking to go long. Otherwise, we can look to go short after 3 waves down, then we can look to go short at that point. So we've got the arrival here, the reaction, and the first high above the level here. It's only very small and faint, but we can work with that. So that's one thing. So that's good. We also don't, if I had this as wave 3 here, let's just go in a little moment here, because if I had that as wave 3 here and wave 4 here, is that little move up here, is that wave 5 sitting on top here? It's a bit of a long shot, isn't it? I mean, it's a bit small compared to wave 1 at that point, but it's something that we need to acknowledge a little bit. So this is what we were looking at yesterday, and it is possible that I can count this up as 5 waves here, and we're going to take a look at that. But when I look at it on the 4-hour chart, it's more likely wave 1 here and 2 here, then 1 and 2 and 3 here, and 4 and 5 here, just for the 3rd wave, a 4th wave, and a 5th wave there. But we wouldn't want it coming down any further if that was going to be a 4th wave. So this would be wave 2 low here, and that would be the top there. So the 38.2% retracement levels being breached here already for that. And that's okay. It's not the end of the world, but if we see it down here somewhere, then we know that that's wrong. So I just wanted to point that out as well here. But one of the main points here was to look and consider wave 5 being on top here, because if that's not the case, then we have to look at this move up here as being, copy this, as wave 1 as we talked about yesterday, and coming back for wave 2 here at the 50-60% retracement level. So we'll go in and take a closer look at that. So first of all, it is possible to count this up here as 1 and 2 here, and then all the way up for 3 here and 4 here, and then making a new high here as wave 5 to make that wave 5 of 5 of 5 here. It's also possible that we could look at this 5-wave structure up here as just wave 1 and coming back for wave 2 into the 50-60% retracement level here. So essentially a move down into this space and then a move up from there. Now, if that's the case, if this, let's just assume for a moment this moves down through here, then and coming back up here, we would still need to see a little classic trading levels pattern sitting on here before we can go long. So that's where we could go long from over here for that. So the market's tested lower and then found support here, and then if that's triggered, then we can continue to build to the upside through each of these levels. And if the 13,300 becomes the support, then we know that the market is leaving this number and will continue to move up higher from that point. But the trap here is that let's just copy one of these. That's in 8 there, 650 in here. This is all of group 2 there. And then we've got 72 in here as well. But the normal, this is why we've got to be careful, because we're working with 13,000, that's group 1, and this is group 2 here. This is the natural swing range for the market to correct at. Once the market finds support on 13,300, a nice tested support, then we can go up from that point. If the 65 here, the 12,650, if that becomes the retested resistance, then we know that we're going to have a bigger correction to the downside at that point. So that's just the normal swing range. So we need to gather evidence within this space here to figure out what's going on next. So what I had been looking for was wave 3 here. We had a nice A, B, and C here for wave 4. The S&P didn't make a new low here. It finished up here even higher. That made it a little bit difficult, but we use this one here as our sort of guiding light, so to speak. So as wave 4, and then we're counting 5 waves up here. Now, the 5th wave didn't really give me a nice 5th wave here. It gave me a new high, but not everything finishes, tops and bottoms don't finish the way that we would like them to finish. So I did work through all of this move through here on an intraday basis on a 5-tick chart here. So from this low here, we could count this up here in there's 2 different ways to count this, and it doesn't really matter. It still leaves us with 5 waves. We can look at all of this as wave 1 and 2 here, and then 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and going 5 waves up here for wave 5 of 5 of 3. And then yesterday we were looking for wave 4, and then we're looking for wave 5, and wave 5 didn't really give us a big move up. We could also look at all this here as wave 1 just to here, and wave 2 to here, and then 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 for the 3rd wave, and the 4th wave and the 5th wave. So both ways it fits. Takeaway from here is that we do have 5 waves coming up into that high here, and now we're correcting here at this point. So at this stage here, excuse me. Oh, this is the S&P. Sorry. Yeah, we'll get to that one. Sorry about that, but still the same. It's still the same thing. So we'll get to this. Let's just dive in. It's a bit stupid of me. It's hard to be perfect. We'll just go to the 15-minute chart. See if we can pick that up. So here, sorry about that. But here it's quite clear as well, though. So wave 1 and 2 here, and then 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and going up for 5 here for the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th wave here. So in this case, we've got more of a move down through here. I mean, if I was shorting this, see how this is retesting that in 3 waves? Well, under here, that makes that 3 waves. So that's the short trade. How far that will get you, I'm not sure, and we'll just see how this plays out here for this. You could probably even short this, but all of this move down here could just be a trap as well, because if we looked at this as 5 waves up here, like I've just mentioned, this can just be 5 waves to as wave 1 here and going back for wave 2. Really just to the 12.8 there in that instance. There's also the point of if we took this wave 1 low here and looked at all of this here as wave 4, I'd have to take it to the top. Because wave 5 was so small, I'm sort of left scratching my head, sort of, you know, not quite right. So if I took wave 2 low here and wave 3 top here and looked at this as some sort of A wave, B wave and C wave down here, well then that's the 38.2% retracement just here for that. So, you know, it may just come down to that and then push off from there. But as mentioned, we can go long above this top here for this, and you could take the risk and go short here on this at the moment as well, but you wouldn't want to put in a large position on this one here. So we'll just move this here. So we don't really know what's going on at the moment, but that's in 3 waves here, so that should break lower down into this space here. So having, I mean, the time the video gets out, it's a bit late, but look, I think hindsight's okay if you can learn from things, because this is the level here, and then we start looking at bearish pictures for this. So this one is like this here. So the market's come through the 13,000. It's done a 3-wave retracement level here. That means that we can go short on this one. We can go short on this one here, and we can also go short on this one. But because we're just sort of starting off in this, that's the 3 waves here. So we could have gone short earlier here, or even drawn a line through here as well. But it doesn't confirm as 3 waves going up here as an ABC until that low has been breached there. That's the catch-22. So yeah. If I had to count this down here, there's different ways to count it. I mean, you could count this down as 1 and 2 across here. Let's get rid of this thing. So we could count this as 5 waves down here for 1 and 2 here, but it's a little bit sideways from wave 2. And we could look at this as wave 3 here, and wave 4 and wave 5 coming down here. It's just one way to count it. So that would be 5 waves coming down here. That would leave us with another ABC pattern coming into here, and then another 5 waves coming down through here. So what we might do with this one here is we'll move that and put it on top of this one here when it comes in, because if that low comes in down through here, then we can look at this here, find that low here, right, and then look for your 50-60% retracement level up here. And then, which will be this block here, is really this it started here, right? Those orders in here transferred over here, and they will transfer over here. So that's really that block through here. That's the real game there. So having that as support is what you would want. Okay. So we could even lift that up a little bit further. But anyway, we'll pick this up in the next session. Let's just give this a session to play out here. And let's also look at the SP 500. I'm just putting that back in place. So the S&P as well, don't need to go into a big story, but wave 3 here, an ABC pattern here, wave 1 here that I've been looking at, and wave 2 in here, and this wave 3 here, you know, it's been a bit of a you know, a hard slog going through here, and it is a little bit difficult to count. You can count it in slightly different ways, and that's why I'm thinking that we will move higher. I'm thinking that this would be just well, this is I think wave 4 here is a little bit small, and it does overlap wave 1 here, so that is a bit of a problem. So I think wave 3 could be higher, and if not, then this can also pull back down and then push higher into this space here. But I don't have any evidence of that. But what I do have is that this move here hasn't really displayed a nice 5 waves, but I can live with that. But wave 1's okay, wave 3's okay, but this one here is wave 5 is just too small, you know. But we've got to keep an eye, on the ball because of the NASDAQ being at 13,000, which is a major trading level. But psychologically, we know that the 800 here is a profit-taking number. So we've just really, even we got sold off coming close to that, and now we're sort of up here. So we may get sold off again from this particular point. So yeah, we really need the 800 as a nice tested support. If we get 800 as support, then I have no problems of getting to 4,000 at that point. And we do need to see a decent wave 5 here, really. It's just too small compared to the time it took to do wave 3 and also wave 1 here as well. So I think there's more upside. We just need to wait for the right setup for this. So let's just move in and have a closer look. So technically speaking, from wave 4 here, I can count 5 waves up here. I would prefer to call it wave 1 and pulling back for wave 2 here. It's just natural to see at 3,000, not so much the 3,000, but it's all about the 800. The 800 here delivering some type of correction. So we've got our first high above the level, so that means that that becomes our trigger for the long side. Now, of course, we should be able to get a better position, better price for our long trades at that point, but it's just something that we need to wait for. We can always move that down to the second high here, so we can do that. We just need to see how we may be able to get a better position down here, but we would need to see this as corrective. It does appear this first wave is impulsive here, so we'll need to check on that. Let me just check over here for that. Looks a bit impulsive, that moving up there, but we'll get closer to that in a moment. The 1 hour chart, this is what we were looking at yesterday. So we had our 1 and 2 here, which I think is the better fit, and then 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. But this wave here is just a bit small. So I do wonder if this wave 4 sits over here somewhere, you know. But that said, that move up through here was a nice 5 waves. And really, if we look at, wave 1 here and wave 2 here, and then we've got the extension in wave 3. So if we get the extension in wave 3, that normally leaves wave 1 and wave 5 roughly the same length. They're not quite the same length, but you know, they're both small. So yeah, anyway, a little bit of a prob there with all that, but I mean, we have seen selling in other markets as well, haven't we? So that's been a bit of an issue, but just generally speaking, you know, the cryptos and the gold and all those guys pulling back as well. Yeah, so the other count for this, of course, which is probably more logical, is looking at this as wave 1 here. Wave 2 over here for this. Not that it has to pull back to the 50-60% either. We'll just see how it's just a starting point to see how things place out. I mean, if it drops below that, then we know that we've got a bit of an issue at that point. So I'm just going to dull that out here, just so I know that we've talked about it and it's sitting there as such. Oh God. This new platform takes a little while to get used to. So that brings us down to that high here to go long on. Should really be looking at short trades here as well. I don't particularly like trading against the trend unless I've got some really good evidence of things. So if this was going to be wave 2 here, then we would have to look at this as as the A wave here, the B wave here, and the C wave coming down here, and that would be that length here, and this length would be roughly the same, and then that would match up to that there. So it's possible to move that into that space there. But anyway, you've got the long setup here. I mean, that move down through here and that move back up, that's definitely back up to the 61.8% of that. So we can go long above that. If it drops lower, then we need to see it work back up and find support here with a little classic trading levels pattern, and then we can go long from that point. We can't really go short in this unless we're down here somewhere and we see a nice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves down here, then 3 waves back up, because otherwise there's a good chance that we'll get caught. This little move up through here, I just want to have a look at that on the 5 tick chart just to show you this. So when I look at this structure here, it looks a bit like 5 waves. If we look at this as wave 1 here and back for wave 2, and then 1 and 2 here, and 3 and 4 and 5 for the third wave, A, B, C for the fourth, and then probably 1 and 2 in here, 1 and 2 to this point, then 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 here for the third wave, typical fourth wave, and then up for the fifth wave here. So it kind of looks like 5 waves here, but it has dropped quite low here. Let me just check on this. I mean, these things you can just continually to break down. So we're at the 61.8% here so far. So if I looked at all of this as the A wave here, then I'd still need to look at this as 1 and 2 and 3 and wave 4 in here, so it would still break lower down to here. So I guess, I mean, technically you don't want it going down below this low here, but this consolidation in here, that's the 379, you wouldn't want to see it move back below that. So we could say that the 3790 is a critical point at that point. If that's breached, then it's like, I mean, if it becomes the resistance, then it's likely to move lower at that point. So I'll just put that in. Oops, it didn't go red, but it's a bit weird. Anyway, it's not sticking there. I don't know why, but yeah. So this can be an A wave, a B wave, and a C wave down to 37.95, maybe 93, but you wouldn't want to see it going any lower than that. So just to point out that this down here can be viewed as 3 waves here, and this can be viewed as 5 waves here. So I guess even finding support on 38.10, like a classic trading levels pattern setting on 38.10 for the sort of shorter trend traders to move in on would be fine. Yeah, or even if you've got a second high there in that regard. So that means that if this drops down through here and then works its way back up with a little classic trading levels pattern sitting here, you can also move into here at that point, put your stop here, and then you've got to get to break even at that point. So anyway, I'm just rambling on now, so I'll leave it at that. Let's just come back here. Let's see if there's anything else I need to talk about here. So not really, it's just a bit of a waiting game. So just to recap a little bit, it is possible to have blue wave 5 of 5 and a top in play, but I don't particularly like it because it's a bit, this wave structure is a little bit small here, It is possible that it is wave 1 here and we'll pull back to wave 2 at this point. It's also possible, unfortunately, that we could look a bit of a long shot, that we could look at this as a wave 4 pullback here and then have wave 5 move to the upside here. But either way, what I would normally do in this case, not that I have in this case, but if I was long here, I would trade to the 800 here, the number 8, and then I'd get out and then I'd just wait. I'd wait for a correction. And normally with corrections is that when they first start, they're a little bit difficult to sort of figure out, but as they mature, you can start pondering them and you start to get a few ideas and things start to fall into place, and then you can start to, build a strategy and start to, play that strategy out, and then suddenly you're back in the market. So really, we've just really arrived up here. We haven't really seen much of a correction at all. But in terms of continuing with the trend to the upside, we need to buy new highs. And in terms of going short in the market, you could get in there shorter if the 3800 becomes the retested resistance, like we talked about with the NASI on the 13,000. But really, we don't really want to entertain short positions unless we're under this 61.8% mark. Then we can start to have a look at a bigger move down and call a top in at that point. But even this top here can also be this top here as well, because this was really all of this move here was a little bit tricky to count out here, and we're still left with the problem that wave 4 here overlaps wave 1 here. Now, I know that we could look at this as wave 1 here and back for wave 2, and probably look at all of this as wave 1 and back for wave 2, and then wave 1 and back for wave 2, and keep building to the upside. That would give us a much bigger picture to the upside, and that's cool as well. But I just think that we need to be on the conservative side and build up from the bottom of that conservative view, but also understand at what points that we've gone wrong, where we're wrong, and this wave 4 overlapping wave 1 here. It doesn't happen on the NASDAQ, but it happens here, and at this degree of structure it shouldn't happen. But when Elliott made all his rules, he made them in a space where there was not any leverage as such. So these markets are highly leveraged now, so that chucks a bit of a spanner in the works, and we have seen overlapping wave structures before, but I don't like it when they're at this point here. So this could certainly be counted differently, and we do have a couple of counts that can do that, but I'm not going to go into that at the moment. We just need to be mindful that we're at number 8 here, and we're at the 13,000. We're at two large numbers, so they can correct lower here, and we are seeing other markets, metals and currencies and so on, also get sold off as well. So must be just the day of the month or something. So alrighty, thanks for tuning in. Cheers.